Solvitur Ambulando, The Adventures of Steve and Dixie by Stephen Breakstone. Copyright 2025. Snippets from my journal. Month 4, September 1986. September 1st, 1986, Monday, Pratt, Kansas. We are in the Catalina Motel, Route 54 in Pratt, and now we head west towards Dodge City and Garden City. We're taking a day off to clean and freshen ourselves up. Kansas has shown us some rolling hills and prettier and greener pastures. The more north we are, the less harvesting has taken place compared to Oklahoma. The land looks so much more alive. It is a later cutting season. That could be good news for us. Those torturous days of heat, humidity, and prostration are history. Whatever happened to those days when almost complete nudity was still too much clothing? They say it's unseasonably cool. All I know is that for the last week, I am always in sweatpants and a shirt. My blood is still thin, and I get cold easily. The days are pleasant to walk, but the nights have me yearning for my trusty sleeping bag waiting for me in New York. I didn't expect to have to call it into action until we hit the Rockies. Since day one, I have long contemplated what effects walking and being by myself would have on my mind. I hope I'm not overdoing certain thoughts. Lately, I am constantly thinking of writing a book and of consequent fame, or perhaps I should say notoriety and success. It worked for Peter and Barbara Jenkins. That's never been my motivation for walking, but it has been on my mind so much. I think I've run out of other things to think about. Maybe it's just a way to pass the time. Am I fooling myself, or am I predicting? The bottom line, of course, is that whatever it is up to me. September 5th, 1986, Friday, Ford, Kansas. Just walking west. I have a feeling that I will either work in a meat processing plant or I will just get to Garden City, find a place to live, and get a job. Not unlike how I did it in New Orleans. I'll probably look in bars and restaurants since I have so much experience as a bartender and a waiter. This is very disappointing, though, because that is not what I want this time. For the last few days, over 60 miles, I have seen very few people. Occasionally, someone stops to talk, or I talk to people in the cafes of the very small towns I have passed through. But in the towns of Haviland, Greensburg, Mullinville, and here in Ford, I have had no clue as to any work. I talk to people at the co-op grain elevators, or anywhere and everywhere, and all I hear is, I can't think of anyone who could afford to hire anyone extra this year. The price of grain is not making anyone rich. We will pass through Dodge City, and then it's about 50 miles to Garden City. After that, the next town of any real size is a long ways away in Pueblo, Colorado. But I'm ready to call it quits, at least for now. The concentration muscle I need to keep walking every day has been overworked, and the weather is telling me it is time to stop. At least Dixie is enjoying the cooler weather, and she's in good shape. Thank God for Dixie. I admit I'm very nervous as to what will be. I'm comfortable walking as that has become a type of stability for me. But where will I spend the winter? What will I do? How will I live? These are my questions, and it's a bit nerve-wracking not to know the answers. I bet the not knowing is why most people are afraid to travel like me. I got to a point where I'm usually very comfortable with not knowing what is around every corner. But this upcoming corner of what to do now that I have to get back to reality is scary for me. September 6, 1986, Saturday. Fort Dodge, Dodge City, and Cimarron, Kansas. We walked through historic Fort Dodge and then strolled along Front Street of the famous Dodge City. Farm jobs are not looking good. These Kansans sure are friendly when you talk to them, but they're not as outgoing as I have seen in other parts. The most outgoing man I met was former President Richard Nixon's cousin Roland when I was still in Pratt. He didn't have any advice, but he sure had some delicious tomatoes and cucumbers. I went into Excel and High Plains meatpacking companies to see what was available. Jobs were plentiful. No problem. No experience necessary. I have the opportunity to spend the next 8 months of my life in one of 4 different fields: killing cows, skinning dead cows, boning dead cows, or packing dead cows. The wage isn't too bad either. But somehow, I can't see myself doing that. After all, some of my best friends of the last 1,000 miles have been cows. I eat them, and, well, I realize someone has to kill, skin, bone, and butcher them, but right now, that someone will not be me. On the other hand, I still have no offers, and nothing looks good. I mean, nothing even makes me think anyone would be interested in me. And I have asked everyone, people in cars who stop, people in cafes, gas stations, grain elevators, etc. Everyone. No one knows nothing. If I can't find an opportunity by the time we walk into Garden City, I'll look for an apartment. I have enough money to move into a place, all in traveler's checks. Then I'll buy decent pants and a shirt, hit the streets, and look for a job. I'm not very thrilled with the idea, though. That's not what I wanted. Maybe I'm being silly. The idea of this whole walk is to learn. I guess living in a mid sized Midwestern town does fit the bill. But damn it, I want to work on a farm. I want to ride tractors and tend the livestock. September 9th, 1986, Monday, Cimarron, Kansas. We got as far as just east of tiny Cimarron, Kansas. We spent all of yesterday in the Chaparral Motel. For $15, we had a tiny room not much longer or wider than the bed itself. I had HBO and Showtime to help pass the day. Dixie, as always, absolutely loved the day off. Aside from short walks to relieve herself, she happily slept the day away. Today I woke up depressed and ready to walk the last 35 or so miles to Garden City. I called Mike because I finally had to talk to someone, and that is what best friends are for. I'm depressed because I'm not going to work on a farm. It just felt like this walk is not going to provide me with the opportunities that I had read happen to others. And why is that? Mike didn't have any answers, but he always provided an ear for me. I repacked our gear and checked out of the motel. I went for breakfast and repeated, to the waitress, the cashier, or anyone within earshot, that which I have said so often. Do you know of any farmers who might need some help for harvest? I heard what I so often was told. No, but you might ask up at the grain elevators. They know all the farmers. Or talk to the guys at the co op gas station. By now, I got the point, but I decided to go through the motions. The gas station was just up the block. Two guys were walking around doing whatever they were doing. I felt more like I was procrastinating my way up to Garden City. Well, I don't know. It's kind of rough around these parts. They all said that. This was the Midwest I had heard about. The style is very dry and understated, regardless of the way it really is. You might try Delmer Brady. He only got that one guy to help him out, one fellow said. Well, where does he live? Oh, not too far. About 10 miles up, 2 miles over. Not far as the car drives, I thought, but 12 miles one way just to be turned down and have to walk all the way back, it really wasn't worth the bother. That's far from me when it's out of the way. Does he have a phone number? I was handed a phone book. A call costs a quarter, no big deal, so I dialed. Hello, my name is Stephen Breakstone. May I speak to Mr. Delmer Brady, please? I am Delmer Brady. My name is Steve Breakstone, and my dog Dixie and I are walking across the United States. We started in New Orleans and have walked over 1,000 miles. I wanted to give him some background to who I was. I felt walking gave me some credibility, and I wanted to let him know that I wasn't just a drifter. After all, this was on the phone, not someone who had seen me on the road and wanted to talk and say hello to the dog with the backpack. I figured I better get this all in one shot before he just said, "Sorry, I don't need any help." Anyway, the reason I'm calling is that the weather has been changing, and it's just about time for Dixie and me to stop walking for a while, especially before we hit Colorado. The fellows at the co op gas station told me you might be looking for some good help for your harvest. I had a feeling I was talking more than he was used to, but it's worked in the past. Well, sometimes. Yeah, I saw you two walking earlier this morning. That dog of yours with the backpack sure caught my eye. You must have some interesting stories. If nothing else, he certainly sounded like a nice guy. But I wanted a job, not lunch, friendly conversation, or a please drop off a postcard every once in a while. Well, he drawled on, I might be able to use a little help for a while. Boy, That took me by surprise. I really wasn't expecting that. I admit I don't have all that much experience, but I can promise you one thing: I work very hard. I'm not very big, but I have lots of perseverance. I don't have that much work for you, but I would like to help you out. I could use help for, about 6 to 8 weeks. But after that, there's just not much work to do around here. 6 to 8 weeks, huh? I was sort of looking for something to take me over the winter. This beggar was being a chooser. Very quickly, I realized that I would then be out of work around the beginning of November. Then what would I do? Go to garden and try to get a job for 5 months? Well, that puts me in a bit of a spot. I'd be stuck again in about 2 months, I said to him. I wish I could tell you something better, but once we finish harvest, there's just not much to do until April. But we do have a bunkhouse you could live in. After harvest, I could let you stay in it for a while till you find something else. He was so nice, so pleasant, and so generous to be offering me a job concerning he didn't know me, except for the fact that I probably didn't know a damn thing about farm work. I really appreciate your offer, but I think it would put me in more of a jam if I was stuck with nothing in November. That's worse than being stuck with nothing in September. I was sort of hoping that he could think of something. I didn't think he was lying, but it never occurred to me that there was just nothing for farmers to do in the winter. Well, I'm sorry, that is the best I could do. I have one permanent farmhand, and well, he does everything that needs to be done. There's just not that much work over the winter, especially for an extra farmhand. But I'll tell you what, if you need to rest, you can stay in the bunkhouse for a few days. No doubt about it, Mr. Brady was a very nice man. Thanks. But right now we're doing okay. I think we'll just head on up to Garden City. I really appreciate your generosity and offer, but I don't think it would work real well for me. May I call you if I change my mind? Sure. And my offer still stands if you just want to rest a few days. Thank you very much, Mr. Brady. I will keep it in mind. I had the feeling that he really did need someone for a little while and just a little while, and he sort of liked the idea of having someone different working for him. A quick phone conversation doesn't tell you much about a person, but he sounded so sincere. I felt bad that I turned down his generosity, but it was just a tease. I just didn't think that it was in our best interest. The next town was Ingalls, 6 miles away, 6 miles closer to Garden City. We hit the road. Dixie, in all her beautiful fun, made me feel a little bit better. The weather was cool, and she had rested her pads for the last 36 hours or so. She was running way up ahead of me, smelling the smells, playing with some cows. Watching Dixie enjoy life is one of the greatest pleasures and sights I have had on this walk. And after 4 states, she knows the rules of the road quite well, and I have no worries about her. I've always keep an open eye and an open ear for the jingles of her tags, but I have plenty of faith in her. She has proved herself. She knows she has to be on our side of the road, left of the white line, on the shoulder, and that was her playground. The actual road was off limits. It's always fun to watch her get excited about some animals on the opposite side of the road, though, because then she would run up and down the road, sometimes barking or whining, but never would she cross that white line. She may not jump through hoops of fire or play dead, but she is one smart, exceptional dog. And boy, does she have her charm. Long ago, she has proven that it had worked on people, and today she proved that it was more than just humans. When she is feeling good, she often kept herself about 20 to 30 yards ahead of me. Today, I noticed that she had found something, and I could look up the road and see that. The grass was too high for me to see what it was, but she had her nose focused on something. I finally got to within 10 or 12 feet and noticed the something was a skunk, a live skunk. Oh, a stinking dog is not fun to have, not in a tent at night or looking for a job. This wasn't good. I softly told Dixie to get back. And what do you know? She listened to me without making a false move. Then I grabbed her collar and the skunk just shuffled off. I laughed out of relief. I considered that, well, it is much more dramatic story for a book to have her sprayed and stinking for a week. Now, in the long run, it might be funny to look back upon, but when the story is real life and you are in the middle of it, that is the last thing you want to happen. Her charm crosses the boundaries of species. A canine and a skunk were nose to nose for a good 3 or 4 minutes, but there was no aggression or fear, just curiosity. Dixie just wanted to say howdy, and the skunk returned the greeting by not spraying. I was relieved and amazed. They were nose to nose, and the skunk had no other obvious escape. Another blessing, and perhaps an adventure avoided. Thank you to whichever deity there is to thank. And boy, this mini almost drama actually made me think. I don't recall the connection, but I realized all of a sudden it was time to be a man again and stop creating problems where they didn't exist. What am I, an idiot? No one had given me the slightest hint of a farm job, let alone an actual offer, until this morning. Then I finally get one and I turn it down. I had it pictured only one way. I had been so close minded that I wanted a farm in the middle of Kansas with some crops and some livestock and a bunkhouse with all the modern conveniences, with a cook to cook the meals for the hands at sunset. Something that would be an incredible learning experience and lots of interesting fun. I could hang out with cool farm people and play with the cows and the pigs and make a bit of money and just then head off in the spring. That's the way I pictured it, and that is what I wanted. I've read about it happening to others in books. What am I, crazy? Well, yeah, a bit. Whatever happened to see what you can get and worry about the details later? Walking from New Orleans to Kansas was a great planting ground for the imagination to find no limits and to allow reality to take unexpected twists and turns. I guess I needed the few extra miles from Cimarron to Ingalls to sort out my head and, well, just make another phone call. I should take the job and worry about November in October. By then, maybe I'll meet someone who could help me out. Or Delmer Brady will be so impressed with my hard work that he'll find other things for me to do and keep me on. Or maybe I could work on the farm, then fly home and visit for a couple of months and have everything I want. There are plenty of possibilities, but only if I put myself in the position for them to happen. I can't believe I turned this guy down. It's another 3 miles to Ingalls, and I'll call and see if the job is still available. Side note. Solvitur Ambulando? Did I resolve it through walking? By the way, note my very New York City mentality there. My concern was that maybe in the course of 2 hours, in the middle of laid back southwest Kansas, Mr. Brady found, or was even looking for, someone else, and that I may have missed out on my only opportunity during those 2 hours to work on a farm. Seems pretty silly when you think about it, but I'd like to share with you that those were my honest thoughts and feelings. Later, 6 miles from the last phone, and the 25 cents went up to $1.40. Fortunately, I had enough coins. A gruff voice told me that the boss would be gone for another couple of hours. Urgh. Frustration. Later. Anticipation is sitting around a tiny town to call again 2 hours later. Excitement is being told, "Sounds good, Steve. How about if my wife and I come down to the cafe in Ingalls and we talk about it? Talk is cheap. We'll see if we can work something out." Then, before I knew it, we were on our way back to Cimarron to the IGA market. I needed to pick up some groceries. That's because my new job at $4.25 an hour included a bunkhouse, but I have to buy the food and cook the food on my own. Delmer is as nice a person in person as he was on the phone. I blabbed so much on the drive to the farm that I didn't think I learned anything about him. Words cannot describe the excitement. And that's it. Walk part one is over. Now I am a farmhand on a real farm in Kansas, USA. This morning, Monday, September 9th, 1986, I woke up not too thrilled with my present future. The afternoon had me turn down a farm job, walk 6 miles, and consider turning my brain in for scrap. But by the evening, it has me on a farm in a great one-bedroom bunkhouse with everything I need. And Dixie has acres upon acres to run. I will be an official farmhand at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Side note, a moment to reflect. September 9th, 1986 was the end of the first part of an adventure, the end of walking about 1,000 miles across America, and the beginning of a new adventure, which was all inside a bigger adventure that started, well, when? When Mike, Karen, and I first drove across the USA for a summer in California between our second and third year of college? Or did it start when we came back from that trip and began a plan to buy a camper van and make a horseshoe around the United States on our way to Alaska after graduation? Or did it start when Mike, Karen, and I felt that traveling in that van was not as fulfilling as we had hoped, and then we settled in New Orleans to plan walking to Seattle on our way to Alaska? Well, I think that no matter how you slice it, my post-college, what do I want to do with the rest of my life adventure started long before Dixie and I took our first steps out of the French Quarter of New Orleans. And I still reflect that, yeah, I did create an adventurous life. Not bad for someone who always felt that his early life, while comfortable, was actually kind of boring. And then my German Shepherd and I walked from New Orleans to Kansas, a unique mental and physical adventure that I expressed in the first 23 episodes of this series. And then, this 23-year-old Jewish kid from New York City was hired to work on a farm in southwest Kansas, USA. I don't know anyone else from my old neighborhood or schools who are having any of these types of adventures. And I still love looking back and thinking how cool these experiences were, and I appreciate them all. And believe it or not, I even appreciate that some, maybe not all, but even some of the unpleasant experiences can be appreciated. Anyway, these journals express the uncertainties of my chosen lifestyle, including all the emotional ups and downs on that adventure. And relative to those thoughts and feelings, I'm going to close this with a quote from Voltaire, of which I can strongly relate. And he said, "Uncertainty is an uncomfortable position, but certainty is an absurd one." Well, that's it for now. Peace.